Would you buy this? This is the new electric Mercedes GLB, and honestly, first impression, it already feels much more modern and much more high-tech than before. You still get that upright GLB shape, but now with a more futuristic EV feel. As soon as I get into the driver's seat, the first thing I notice is the space. It feels open, the seating position is upright, and visibility looks really good. So straight away, it feels like a proper, everyday family EV. The seat material also looks really nice. To me, it feels like a mix of Alcantara-style microfiber and leather, which gives the cabin a sporty but still premium vibe. And that matches the rest of the interior really well. Then, right in front of you, you've got the 10.3-inch driver display, the 14-inch middle screen, and the 14-inch passenger display, which makes the whole dashboard look very high-tech and very luxurious. I also like that Mercedes kept proper steering wheel controls, because in a car with this many screens, real buttons still make a difference. The middle storage area also looks practical, which is important for everyday use, and the dashboard, passenger side, window switches, and door controls all follow that same clean, modern Mercedes design. And once you add the head-up display as well, the whole thing feels even more premium from behind the wheel. So overall, first impression, this feels like Mercedes is trying to make the GLB EV more spacious, more premium, and much more screen-led than before. Now let's put it into drive. And one thing I really like here is that Mercedes still gives you a proper gear selector. And let me put it into sport mode. Now that I'm actually driving the electric Mercedes GLB, this is where the car starts to make more sense. Because yes, the screens look great and the cabin feels modern, but the real question is whether this car is actually good enough to compete with the big names in this segment. In terms of power, this should be more than enough for most people. The GLB 250 Plus gives you 272 horsepower, and if you want more, the GLB 354 Matic goes up to 354 horsepower with dual motors. Mercedes also says the 0 to 100 time drops from 7.4 seconds in the 250 Plus to 5.5 seconds in the 350, so this is clearly not a slow family EV. Still, this is not really about crazy performance. It's more about smooth, premium power in a practical SUV. Then you've got the range, and this is where the car starts to look seriously competitive. Mercedes says it can do up to 631 kilometers WLTP in the GLB 250 Plus, while the more powerful GLB 354 Matic still manages up to 614 kilometers. And charging also looks very strong on paper, with 10 to 80% in 22 minutes. That already gives it a big talking point, because in this class, buyers care a lot about whether the car is actually easy to live with on longer trips. And this is where things start to get interesting when you compare it with the rivals. Take the BMW iX1 for example. BMW quotes up to 320 miles of range, which is about 515 kilometers, and 10 to 80% charging in 29 minutes. So on paper, the Mercedes looks stronger for both range and charging speed. Then look at the Audi Q4 e-tron. Audi has quoted up to 534 kilometers WLTP depending on version. So again, the GLB EV looks very strong on range. And when you look at the shape as well, the Mercedes gives you a more upright, boxier SUV design, which for a lot of people is going to feel more practical and more family-friendly than the lower, softer shapes in this segment. And of course, there's the Tesla Model Y. That's probably the car a lot of people will compare this with straight away, because Tesla still has the image, the efficiency, and the charging reputation. Tesla's current Model Y page shows up to 327 miles EPA range for the long-range AWD version, which is around 526 kilometers, and it also offers up to 7 seats. So the Tesla still looks like the obvious benchmark for many buyers, especially if they care about the charging ecosystem and the more established EV identity. But that's exactly why this Mercedes is interesting, because this is not just another electric Mercedes. It's a boxy, family-friendly SUV with real range, very fast charging, and that optional third row. and that already gives it an advantage for buyers who actually care about space and practicality. This feels like Mercedes looked at the market and said, we're not just going to build a premium EV, we're going to build a premium EV that still works like a real family car. And that's also where I think the real debate starts. Because if you're spending money in this segment, are you taking this over a BMW iX1? Over an Audi Q4 e-tron? Or do you still go straight to a Tesla Model Y? Because every one of those cars has a different strength. The BMW iX1 feels like the sharper, more compact premium choice. The Audi Q4 e-tron feels like the more traditional German EV option. And the Tesla Model Y still has that strong EV first image and huge cargo appeal. But the Mercedes is trying to hit a very specific sweet spot. Premium, practical, upright, spacious, and properly usable every day. What I do think Mercedes has done well here is make this feel like more of a proper family EV, not just a stylish one. It's upright, practical, easy to see out of, and it feels like the kind of car that would actually work well every day. And that matters, because a lot of cars in this segment talk a lot about technology, but not all of them feel like they're designed around real-life usability first. And if you look at the numbers again, Mercedes is giving this car enough performance to feel premium, enough range to feel serious, and enough charging speed to feel genuinely competitive. So this is not one of those EVs that only looks good in the showroom. On paper, it really does show up ready to fight. Because some people will look at the Mercedes badge, the interior, the screens, and the flexibility and say this is exactly what they want. Others will still say the rivals make more sense on value, or that Tesla is still the obvious choice. And honestly, that's what makes this car interesting. It's not trying to be the cheapest. It's trying to be the most complete. Tell me in the comments, would you take this over a BMW iX1, Audi Q4 e-tron, or Tesla Model Y? Now let's check out the back seat, and honestly, first impression, it feels pretty nice back here. Space also looks good. Because of the boxy GLB shape, it feels upright, practical, and a lot more usable than some SUVs that focus too much on style. I also like that the window opens fully because that's a small thing that makes the rear feel more open and more passenger-friendly. You still get the same Alcantara style and leather seat mix, so the rear seats keep that same sporty and premium vibe as the front. So this already feels like a back seat that would actually be comfortable in daily use. And once you add the glass roof, the whole cabin gets a lot more light, which makes the back feel even more airy and spacious. So overall, the back seat does a good job. The materials are nice, the space is good, and the glass... Let's check out the trunk. And I have to say, I really like this logo button opening system. It's one of those small details, but it feels smart, clean, and just a bit more premium. Then once you open it, the space looks really usable, and that's one of the big advantages of this boxy GLB shape, because it gives you a trunk that feels practical, not just stylish. I also like the rolling cover because it keeps the trunk area looking neat and gives you more privacy as well. It's a simple detail, but it makes the whole setup feel more complete. So overall, good first impression here. Smart opening, and this is another detail I actually like. The hidden tow hook. You press it and it appears, which is a nice touch because it keeps the back of the car looking much cleaner when you're not using it. Now, it's not fully automatic like BMW's system, where it comes out a bit more smoothly on its own, but honestly, it's still a nice feature to have. Especially if you like the idea of keeping the rear design clean until you actually need to use it. So overall, not fully automatic, but still a smart and practical detail. Let's check out the frunk, because this is one of those EV features people always want to see. And honestly, it's nice that Mercedes gives you that extra storage space up front. This is the kind of area that makes sense for things like charging cables or smaller items you don't want to throw into the main boot. It might not be huge, but it's still a useful bonus. Now let's look at the passenger side, because this is where the interior starts to feel even more special. The passenger seat keeps that same Alcantara style and leather mix, so it still has that sporty but premium feel, just like the driver's seat. And then you've got the passenger screen, and honestly, that makes a big difference to the whole dashboard. It makes the cabin feel more high-tech, more modern, and definitely more luxurious. It's the kind of feature that gives the interior a lot more presence. So overall, the passenger side doesn't just look good, it helps make the whole cabin feel more complete and a lot more premium. And the best part is, the passenger screen is not just for show. Mercedes also gives you access to entertainment apps here, including things like Spotify, YouTube, browser features, and other media apps depending on the version and market. So on a longer drive, the passenger actually gets their own digital space, and that makes this cabin feel much more high-tech and much more premium. Do you actually care about a passenger screen like this, or is it just a gimmick? Let me know in the comments. And beyond the screen, the passenger side also feels practical. You've got useful storage space here, which is important because this car is not just trying to look premium, it also needs to work in everyday life. The glove box size also looks good. It feels big enough for the usual everyday things, and that's the kind of detail that makes a difference in a family car like this. I also like the seat controls because they add to that proper Mercedes premium feeling. They make this side of the cabin feel more comfortable, more complete, and a bit more luxurious overall. So when you put everything together, the passenger screen, the entertainment side, the storage, the glove box, and the seat controls, the whole passenger area feels properly premium. Now after looking around the car, checking the interior, the passenger side, the boot, the frunk, and the overall practicality, this is the part where I try to understand what this electric Mercedes GLB is really trying to be. And honestly, I think Mercedes has been very clear here. This car is not trying to be the craziest EV in the segment. It's not trying to be the sportiest, and it's not trying to be the cheapest either. What it feels like Mercedes is trying to do is build a compact electric SUV that gives you the full premium family package. Because when you look at this car as a whole, that's really the message you get. You've got the upright shape, which already helps with visibility and practicality. You've got the spacious cabin, the modern screen setup, the passenger display, the extra storage, the frunk, the usable boot, and even details like the hidden tow hook. So this doesn't feel like an EV that was only designed to look futuristic. It feels like one that was also designed to actually work in daily life. And I think that's important, because a lot of electric SUVs today are very impressive on paper, but once you start thinking about real ownership, that's when the differences show up. How practical is it? How easy is it to load? How comfortable is it for passengers? How much space do you get? How easy is it to live with every day? And this Mercedes feels like it has been designed with those questions in mind. The other thing is the way Mercedes has positioned this car, because this is clearly meant to be a more premium EV experience. And you feel that in the dashboard design, in the screen layout, in the seat materials, in the way the passenger side gets attention too, and even in the overall presentation of the cabin. This is one of those cars where the first impression is definitely about tech and premium feel. But I also think Mercedes did the right thing by not making this car too complicated. Yes, it has a lot of screens. Yes, it feels very modern. But it still keeps some practical things that people actually appreciate, like the gear selector, like real steering wheel controls, like a body shape that still feels usable. And I think that balance matters a lot, because the problem with some modern cars is that they get so digital that they stop feeling natural. This feels more balanced. And when I think about who this car is really for, I think it's for the buyer who wants something premium and modern, but still wants a car that feels useful. Someone who maybe has a family. Someone who wants good visibility. Someone who wants a more upright seating position. Someone who wants an EV, but doesn't want something that feels too extreme or too minimal. That's where this GLB EV starts to make a lot of sense. Now, of course, the competition is very important here, because this is not an easy segment. If you look at the BMW iX1, that car feels like a very sharp and compact premium EV. If you look at the Audi Q4 e-tron, that gives you a more traditional German electric SUV feel. And if you look at the Tesla Model Y, that one still feels like the obvious choice for many people because of the charging network, the efficiency, and the EV identity. So Mercedes is entering a space where buyers already have strong options. And that's what makes this GLB EV interesting to talk about, because it doesn't really feel like a copy of those cars. It feels like Mercedes is trying to create its own lane here, more family-focused than some rivals, more premium in presentation than others, and more practical than a lot of SUVs that chase sporty design too much. The boxy shape is a big part of that. Some people will always prefer a more sporty coupe SUV style, but honestly, in a car like this, I think the boxier shape is actually one of the best things about it. It helps with headroom, it helps with visibility, it helps with the boot, and it makes the whole car feel more honest about what it is. This is not pretending to be something else. It's a practical luxury EV.
And I think the interior is a big part of what makes this car feel special, especially in a trim like this, with the passenger display, head-up display, and nicer seat finish. The whole cabin feels much more premium and much more modern. And in a car like this, that matters, because people are not just buying range and charging, they're also buying the feeling they get every time they sit inside. That's something Mercedes usually does very well. It knows how to make a cabin feel premium, and in an EV, where everything is quieter and smoother, you notice that even more. But the big question is still value, because if the price is right, I can honestly see this being a very strong choice. It feels practical, spacious, modern, and family-friendly. But if the price goes too high, then buyers are going to look harder at cars like the BMW iX1, Audi Q4 e-tron, or Tesla Model Y. And that's what makes this GLB EV interesting. It's not just trying to look impressive, it's trying to be a complete package. So tell me in the comments, would you take this over a BMW iX1, Audi Q4 e-tron, or Tesla Model Y? And subscribe to the channel for more car reviews.